The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of CNS Channel 6.
Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to Matters of Public Importance, right here on Channel 6. I'm yours, Gail Teixeira, Parliamentary Opposition Chief Whip for the People's Progressive Party, Civic Parliamentarians, and the People's Progressive Party. On this program, we shall focus, as always, on matters of public importance, bring you information and discussions on issues and matters that are of concern to you, the Guyanese public, every Thursday between 12:30 and 1:30, right here on Channel 6. Before we get into the meat of the program, as always, I remind you of the numbers you can use to call in, 225-0010 and 225-0008. And as usual, I remind you that the Office of the Leader of the Opposition is open, 304 Church Street between New Garden and Peter Rose Street, right opposite Border Cricket Ground. And we're open Monday to Saturday. Monday to Fridays, we work from 9 to 5, and Saturdays, half day, sorry. So our number there, if you wish to make a call, to make an appointment, to get clarification of anything, 225-3432. So please feel welcome to come into the Office of the Leader of the Opposition. We're there to serve the people of Guyana, whether you voted for us or not. Some of you may be familiar with Freedom Radio, and so you can tune in to Freedom Radio on 91.1 for Demerara, FM, 91.1 FM, and 90.5 Berbice FM, and FM 90.7 for Essequibo. Mirror newspaper is also the oldest newspaper in Guyana and the Caribbean region. Started in 1961, is now online, so that you can receive it at www.facebook.com/weekend Mirror News, one word. So please feel free to access Mirror newspaper, the weekly newspaper, online on Facebook. In the previous weeks, we looked at a number of issues such as the 30 billion sugar bond, the 2016 oil and gas production license agreement under this government versus the 1999 prospecting license under Mrs. Jagan, and government corruption and extravagance, to name a few. On April 19th program, we focus on the number one issue that concerns Guyanese, and that is the economy, wastage and corruption. On May the 3rd, we focus on examining government policy and performance with the economy. In other words, how has the government put your money to work, or has it not put your money to work? And unfortunately, we didn't have two programs recently that followed that, so I deeply apologize for that, and we regret that. But anyway, May has been quite a month, hasn't it? Let's look at the issue of state bullyism reaching another level. This began in May. Took another level in the month of May. We all witnessed how the former minister, Dr. Ashley Singh, and former chief executive officer of NISL, Winston Brassington, were treated when they voluntarily attended the court to face charges against them. They were handcuffed in the prisoner's dock, $6 million bail each, and compared with others who were charged with crimes. Singh and Brassington were not charged for having a single cent corruptly attained. Instead, they're being charged for selling land without evaluation, even though there was a public tender that set the market value. The Leader Opposition stated then that this was expected. A partnership for national unity, APNU is operating according to plan. So in the pre-election period, Granger and many others declared their intention, and led by the Kaiachur News, that we must jail Brassington, Singh, Jagdeo, a whole list of people for acts of corruption. They declared this across the country on their platform. Jagdeo continued. Almost every speaker routinely got up and spoke about jailing them. The government, as soon as it got into office, embarked on a process that they believed would result in this outcome. The process involved these forensic audits, which are not forensic audits by any standards. Jagdeo said that persons from the coalition government have called him to express regret over the way the forensic audits were carried out. According to Jagdeo, the charges against the duo proved that the audits did not generate the evidence that the government was expecting. The audits, all 50 or so audits, did not generate the evidence they thought they were going to find. But in the face of the fact that APNU is losing ground, it is mired in corruption, scandals, a failing economy, loss of jobs, failing to keep its promises. And so they're now pushing to pursue a promised outcome at all costs, Jagdev stressed. The Special Organized Crime Unit brought the charges against the two former government officials early last month. Singh and Brassington are due to return to court on June the 5th. On the day after their court appearance, former Minister of Finance Dr. Ashni Singh and former CEO NISL, Winston Brassington, were called in for questioning by the Special Organized Crime Unit. Accompanied by their lawyers, Anil Nandalal, Mark Waldron, and Says Ganraj. They arrived at SOCO's headquarters in Georgetown about 9 o'clock in the morning and left some 4 hours later. They were questioned about 27 allegations of misconduct in public life, even on matters dating back to 1994. Mr. Nandalal, who is also a Member of Parliament, former Attorney General of Guyana and Minister of Legal Affairs, reiterated that no allegation of dishonesty was made, nor are there any allegations that the duo has stolen public funds or profited from these transactions. These transactions, according to him, have received the approval of Cabinet and were on the recommendations, and these were made on the recommendations of the NISL board. I maintain, he said, that these charges are intended to harass, humiliate, and persecute these persons. Nandalal told Guyana Times that he was advised that the charges were recommended by advice received from Dr. Sam Suttlington, the British consultant who is supposedly assisting SOCO in an advisory position, although we know that we have photographs of him in water operational activities. If the basis of the government and SOCO's charges are that the assets were sold below market value, is the government going to go after the people who purchased over 100,000 house lots in the housing programs established by the PPC government? And these lots were specifically and deliberately sold below market value to make them affordable for the majority of Guyanese people. Dr. Singh told the media that the coalition administration was using SOCO to target its political opponents. He said, "I would say that what we're witnessing is state bullyism, political harassment of the very worst kind," he said. Nevertheless, he pointed out that he and Mr. Brassington were cooperating with SOCO. Mr. Brassington also pointed out that every single transaction received several layers of approval, first by the Privatization Unit Board, the NISL Board, and then by Cabinet. "We have produced records," he said, "showing what we did, and there's nothing wrong in what we did. Everything we did, we have a justification and approval from boards and Cabinet, so what they're doing is a travesty in justice." A few days ago, former Minister of Finance, Saisnarine Kolasar, was also pulled in for questioning at the SOCO headquarters and also fingerprinted at the police headquarters and made to put up a bail as well. And he was questioned for hours for matters going back to 1994. Today's newspaper points out that the SOCO has sent more files for charges to be laid for properties sold going back to 20 years ago. However, note that they're not dealing with the properties that were sold before 1992. That is, the Demerara Woods, the house for Mr. Greenwich, who was the Minister of Finance, who benefited from the purchase of the house in what was the Guyana Stores compound area, or Bel Air Gardens, as well as the sale of GT&T at rocket bottom prices, etc. Those are just a few of the cases that go back long before 1992. In the meantime, and as you may know, I have openly written public letters to Dr. Clive Thomas, or two in fact, which have been published, which are challenging Dr. Thomas, who is the head of SOCO, the director of of SARA, to come forward and investigate these matters. If they're there to deal with state assets recovery as they claim, then they should be dealing with those going back quite a number of years before the PPP. In the meantime, though, the lawyers filed an application of stay in the High Court on the charges brought against the two gentlemen, that is, Ashni Singh and Winston Brassington, on whether the charges of misconduct have merit. The High Court on Monday this week granted the stay that the proceedings against the two former government officials in the magistrate court be paused until the High Court makes its ruling on the substantive charges. The Chief Justice, Roxanne George Wilshire, is expected to hear that challenge this Friday, May the 25th, 2018. Lawyers representing Dr. Singh and Brassington have applied for the charges to be quashed on the basis that the common law offense of misconduct in public office cannot be committed where the servant in question is specifically excluded from consideration as a public officer under the Constitution and/or general principles. As such, any alleged misconduct by the applicants does not constitute misconduct in public office. In other words, Ashni Singh and Winston Brassington have been charged of misconduct in public office. This charge is relevant to those who are considered public officers. The Constitution of Guyana is very specific on who a public officer is. Ashni Singh, as a former minister, and Mr. Brassington, as a former CEO, Chief Executive Officer, are not public officers and therefore cannot be charged under that rubric. But you know, my friends and my viewers, we all know who the target, the real target, the APNU government is going after, and using SAR or any other means they have. They're frantically trying to find anything to charge former President and leader of opposition Barack Jagdeo and to lock him up. That's the target. You know, you have a big bullseye and there's a big red dot in the middle. That's the target. The target is Barack Jagdeo. And of course, maybe they're trying to do what Brazil and the president of Brazil and the Brazilian courts have done, and that is to charge the former President Lula, who is extraordinarily popular in Brazil, to make sure he's not able to run as a candidate in the upcoming elections in Brazil. And you know that Lula has been charged and sentenced and was not allowed to appeal his case and therefore be free. So it is a similar situation that they're trying to contrive, because they're not sure if the case in the Caribbean Court of Justice will support the contention of the Chief Justice that the president of Guyana can run for more than 2 terms, and or whether it'll be listen to the government's appeal and side with the government. So they're not sure if the Caribbean Court of Justice will rule in favor of the government or not. And so they're trying to make sure all their eggs are in many baskets, so if one option doesn't work out, they can get the other. So they're desperately going into all the files of 1992, 93, 94. Sais Narayan wasn't even a minister in that period. The minister, junior minister at that time, was Jagdeo at that time. And Asghar Ali was the senior minister of finance at that time. So we all know what the game is. It is maybe that's one issue that's transparent than what the government's doing. Maybe they think they're not being transparent, but this is one issue where they are being transparent, in that clearly everyone knows who the target they're going after, and they're willing to do anything: break laws, break the Constitution, bring in advisors, bring in foreign advisors to help them do this wicked deed, having not found anything anywhere after 50 audits, etc. The other example of state bullyism took place this weekend, when the PNC General Council was meeting and where statements are alleged to have been made by the President and leader of the PNC, as well as the Chairman of the PNC, Attorney General Basil Williams, where they made statements that were threats to the media for their criticism of the APNU AFC government. It is interesting that the reaction was so overwhelming in the public domain that in defense of the freedom of the press and freedom of speech, that the PNC was forced to put out a statement to try to do damage control. In the interim, Guyana Times stated that they received threats prior to that if they didn't stop criticizing the government, they would know the consequences. Maybe the external government watchers advised the government to backpedal on these strident statements that they made on the weekend. Maybe, who knows? There seem to be a number of external advisors that government seems to have brought in. As someone said, that the government seems to have a Massaday mentality. The government marked the 3rd anniversary in glowing terms of how well they have been doing. The APNU AFC government coalition produced a big center page in the newspaper and titled the list of 231 achievements in his 3 years of office as Guyana on track. I'm sure some of you had a look at that center page, cost a lot of money, but there were 231 achievements in 3 years. Let's look at them. Well, at his May 16th, 2018 press conference, the opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo charged that the only thing Guyana is on track towards is a worsening state of affairs due to the failures of the current administration. During his press conference on May the 16th, he noted that many of the claims of accomplishment that were made related to routine functions of governments, including the move to rename a building in honor of Stephen Campbell, the first Amerindian member of parliament, and the effort to have coaching courses in archery, among others. These are big achievements, he said. This is the massive hard work they've been doing. Several others, according to him, represent blatant lies, such as the resuscitation of the manganese plant in Region 1, which has not happened. The claim that the Amerindian land titling program has been extended, despite the fact that not one single title has been issued in the last 3 years of the APNO AFC government. But they're claiming they've expanded the program. And the claim that major criminal gangs have been smashed, despite the fact that there's been no such occurrence. Mr. Jagdeo said, which gang was smashed? Who was prosecuted? Let us know, for goodness sake, because the level of crime in this country, if they did smash all these criminal gangs, how come crime is so high still in Guyana? Just up to the other day, in my neighborhood, a woman, businesswoman was robbed just as she got out of her car. Other claims of accomplishment he charged, Mr. Jagdeo charged, a complete distortion of facts. As seen in, let's go through them. The claim that the minimum wage was increased. But if you just take that as a standalone without considering that there was an increase in tax and fees, which reduced the disposable income for thousands of Guyanese. In fact, the purchasing power of Guyanese was reduced in last year by billions of dollars, just as a result of taxation and the increased cost of goods. The claim that a new chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission was appointed, that's another claim. But this claim ignores that this was done in the breach of the Constitution and 25 years of common understanding between the two main political parties. The naming of 3 towns, which had meant nothing to the residents of those areas. They weren't consulted as to whether they wanted to be called towns or not, other than the fact they're now subject to new rules and new taxes. The opposition leaders stressed that the government ought to be focusing instead on job creation, addressing the crime situation, improving the state of the economy, addressing the needs of youth in Guyana, and dealing with corruption. He said there are tons of corrupt practices and incidents that we have pointed out, and they refuse to address these. We no longer use our procurement laws because what has happened is direct sourcing. So what he means is that when the government is going out to do its capital work and other works, instead of going out to public tender or selective tender, which is publicly dealt with, they are then going directly to source. So in other words, no tendering. They then go to choose who they want to get the contracts. According to him, the coalition government continues to ignore the public procurement process, resulting in the loss of millions upon millions in taxpayer dollars and spending that is done without any attention to the concept of value for money. Relative to the needs of youth in Guyana, he said nothing substantial has been done. Nothing. Ask the young people what they think about what's going on. On the state of the economy, he said, on the economy and their plans, they are failing there too. They're running down our reserves and the country's economy is declining. The former head of state said that some 25,000 jobs were lost since the coalition took office. In addition to that, a slew of new taxes were imposed on Guyanese people and the business community. They have collected $56 billion more in taxes last year. So what grade do we give them? I'm sure you know the answers. For competence, F. For economy, F. Well, corruption, we're going to give them an A. We give them an A in corruption. Taxes, F. Jobs, F. And crimes, F. So, colossal failure, yeah. Usually in school, if you have those kind of grades, you get kicked out or you get downgraded and kept back in another class. But the one thing they got an A in, corruption. May is the month, too, that we celebrate our independence as a nation. This year, we shall not be seeing the golden arrowhead go up at midnight on May the 25th for the first time since we became independent. Reason given by the APNU AFC government? No money, they said. Come on. The budget for 2018 is $267 billion, plus they've already gone for 2 supplementary financial papers amounting to another $5 billion in the first 4 months of 2018, and they don't have money? Really? Money spending like water from the heavens, and we aren't seeing where this money is going. So they don't have money. And my thing is, who are they trying to fool? They said they will do the midnight flag raising every 2 years. The real reason, is that the people aren't turning out in droves to Jubilee Durban Park, for the anniversary flag raising. And this government can't face the embarrassment and the rejection by thousands of people who are now alienated from national events. And that's the truth, whether they like it or not. Unlike when it was held at the national park every year under the PPP and even under the Hoyt regime, each year the park was packed with families and children, with over 15,000 people there to watch the flag raising and the fireworks display. Their great legacy project, the Jubilee Durban Park, that cost the Guyanese people over $1.5 billion, is a colossal failure and a waste of money. And by the way, it is under audit by the Auditor General's office, despite the difficulty in acquiring the documents to support the expenditures. If the PPP government had done something like this, cancelling the midnight flag raising for independence, there would have been protests and people screaming in the streets against the PPP for taking away the midnight flag raising. Well, there's silence. What did they put in its place? Well, at 2 o'clock on Friday the 25th at the Jubilee Durban Park, 2 o'clock Friday. Well, you know what that means. The school children will be traipsed out to the park to fill the seats with a respectable captured audience, so the egos of the president and his cabinet will not be bruised. And in the afternoon and evening, the Starbrook Market will be the venue for a cultural program which will end in fireworks display being centered at Starbrook Market. And that's it for the anniversary, our 52nd anniversary of independence of a nation. May also has witnessed the worst pirate attack in the entire region, that is Caribbean and Latin America, in the waters off the coast of Suriname. The government's delinquent and tardy response to the terrible tragedy of our Guyanese fishermen who were attacked by pirates in Surinamese waters, leading to 3 dead, 12 missing, and 5 survivors, as well as another incident a few days after, which killed 1 with 4 survivors, was disgraceful. At the May 11th parliamentary sitting, we brought the tragedy to the floor of the House for discussion as a matter of definite urgent public importance. The debate itself exposed the government's uncaring and inept approach. The Minister of Public Security stated that the fishermen do not want to use the transponders. These are means of communication between shore and the fishing boats to alert if there's any trouble, as it would expose their illegal activities. Noteworthy is that only when Jagdeo went to Suriname on the request of the families of the victims that the government started to look as if it were doing something. Minister Ramjatan had basically been doing nothing, leaving it to the Surinamese authorities to address this, as it was their problem. It took place in their waters. The President's response was one to say that it had handled the piracy problem and there would be an official mourning. President David Uinger's description of the incident as a massacre is not enough. Jagdeo responded, he, quote, President, used the occasion to score political points. He said, we, the government, have been successful in curbing piracy over the past 3 years. If the President visited the community and spoke to the families and the fisher folk, both in Suriname and Guyana, they would find out in just one meeting that there were hijacks, there were 9 times. In the last 2 years, there were 9 different occasions of pirate attacks on the fishermen. So, according to him, the president, they've curbed the problem. How have you curbed the problem? By not listening to the people, by not knowing what's going on. So if you don't know what's going on, you can truthfully say that you've solved the problem. The problem still remains there. The former head of state said this points to the president being out of touch with reality, as 95% of the fishing in Suriname is done by Guyanese on boats owned by Surinamese. According to Jagdeo, had it not been for the media, the same media that was attacked by this PNC Congress, Guyanese would have known little about the magnitude of this problem at hand. In addition, he noted that the relatives' attempts to contact government and government agencies were at many times rebuffed. At the end of the debate, the government did not commit to any assistance to the families, nor agree to any of the recommendations made to lead to better collaborative work between the Surinamese and the Guyanese officials to protect our people on both sides of the border, nor did they approve any kind of technological and other assistance to the fishermen who suffered as a result of these incidents. Are you surprised? I'm not. So, when is the date for the official mourning? Or is it like the prison escapees, that we can't have a commission inquiry into the July 2017 escape and burning of the Camp Street prison until all the people have been caught? Is it like this? So we have to wait for all the 11 bodies to be found before we will have an official mourning. Nothing's been clarified there. We in the opposition are also representing the call at the May Day rally by the Guyana Trades Union Congress and the FITUC, the Federation of Independent Trade Unions of Guyana, for the Ministry of Labour to be restored to full status from its present reduced status of a department under the APNU AFC government, and department, of course, within the Ministry of Social Protection. This motion was tabled, but it was not allowed to be debated, and we will wait for the next sitting, which, by the way, is not until June the 25th. The President already has signaled that he won't support this demand of the 2 major trade union bodies in this country. And as to the next sitting of Parliament, June the 25th, well, our government ministers are traveling, so you can't have a sitting when there's only 1 seat difference between the government and the opposition. And please remember that we've met in this year so far twice to deal with supplementary financial papers. So only when it is something urgent that the government needs to pass, that then there are sittings that are being held. And I want to remind you, one of the things that happened this sitting, which was very, very dangerous, was that the Minister of Finance brought a motion to increase the debt ceiling, to amend a resolution of 1988, which had put the debt ceiling at 50 billion. And this was an attempt by bipartisanship in the 2014 Parliament. And they brought it back again to amend it, to allow that it didn't only include a miler, which is what the original 2014 resolution stated, exclusively and only a miler. And this was to make sure that if anything went wrong, the investors in a miler had a guarantee from the government, and the government had the financial capacity to step in. In this case, the resolution was brought the same day in Parliament, debated the same day in Parliament, with no time for examination and consultation of it, was that this would be relevant to all other developmental projects of the government, not just a miler. So this is opening a huge door in terms of liability for Guyana, and for Guyana getting into more and more debt and being unable to manage its economy and its finances. This is a major blow, actually, to the functioning of Parliament and the capacity of Parliament and the right of Parliament to be able to oversight the executive and to be able to call it to books. Now remember, the 2014 resolution did not get the unanimous support. That is, the APNU did not support that. Only AFC, with amendments, supported the 2014 resolution, and which we had been forced to agree to in the hope that we would have had a unanimous decision, because the companies that were investing in Amila wanted to make sure that they had unanimous support of Parliament for any government guarantee in relation to Amila. Of course, we didn't get it. And so Amila, the companies that were involved, Blackstone and Scythe Global, pulled out. Now I see Mr. Trotman saying that Amila is not dead. Well, they've been trying to stamp and kill Amila from 2014 to now. Now they're finding out that it's not dead, whereas government officials from the very top, the President, Mr. Harman, others have canned Amila. And so is the Minister of Finance. So I don't know where Mr. Trotman's coming from. But as usual, they put out these smoke screens to cause confusion amongst the public of who's saying what, and as if they're independent and have some voice that is independent of the PNC, which is totally untrue. The former head of state, to continue, pointed out that the president seems to be out of touch with reality, as I said, 95% of the Surinamese fishermen are there. He's out of touch in terms of the May Day rally, in terms of the needing to have a ministry and minister of labor. In the situation now, it is a department. It has been downgraded. And although there's a minister, it is not a ministry, whereas before, under the PPP, it was a Ministry of Labor and Human Services and Social Security, with full-fledged status as a minister and not a ministry and not as a department. So it has completely different type of responsibilities. Well, you know, there was no response from the president to a letter sent by the leading opposition on February the 7th, 2018, that he was prepared to engage further as provided for in the Constitution where no agreement had been reached. This is to do with the appointment of the Chancellor and the Chief Justice. Instead, the president said he is waiting. This is very recently. He said he's waiting for Jagdeo with regard to appointments of the Chancellor and Chief Justice. And he said the ball is in the court of the leading opposition. I have made my proposals to him. He simply rejected them. He has not made any counter proposals, so there's nothing to discuss. Is this a case of memory loss? I don't know. You get a letter of February the 7th, 2018 saying, we do not agree with your thing, but in accordance with the Constitution, I am open to continue, have discussion with you on the way forward as provided for in the Constitution. And this is the response of the president, March, April, May. 3 months later, is that when he reads his letters? 3 months later? Anyway, out of touch again, or is it memory loss? I don't know. Mr. Jagdeo read his entire letter to the president, to the media, and made it clear that his correspondence, and that correspondence made it clear that he's committed to continuous engagement. So, it looks like the president is angling to do what he did with the appointment of the chairman of GCOM. Is it? Violate the Constitution and appoint his own Chancellor and Chief Justice? It'd be interesting to see if he goes in that direction, although he appears to be angling to find a way to get it to do that on his own without keeping in accordance with the Constitution that says that they have to have an agreement. We keep warning that this government is on the path to authoritarianism, and these examples we relate on the program demonstrate. That is where Guyana is heading. So we have local government elections. And although the new cycle, the 11th cycle, was delayed, it should have started earlier in May. Apparently it's now going to start next week and end on July the 8th. So my advice to all of you, get yourself registered, do your transfers, every vote will count. If your name is not on the voters list, you will not be allowed to vote. If it's local government elections and your name is not where you live, then you will not be allowed to vote in local government elections. So rather than go through all the fuss, get yourself sorted out now so that we can make sure that people are registered to vote. And of course, once election day comes along, local government, and later in 2020, everybody needs to go and vote. In 2018, local government elections are scheduled, and in 2020, general and regional elections. If we want Guyana to be put back on a democratic, transformative trajectory, then we have to ensure that we are registered on the voters list, we vote and we monitor GCOM, and the election processes before, on election day and in the count, like hawks. Remember, Amna Ali, as General Secretary of the PNC, has called for a new house-to-house registration in an attempt to derail the local government elections and possibly general regional elections. I'm hearing a whisper that they're not going to push for house-to-house registration for the local government elections, but they're going to want to push for it for general regional elections. If that is so, then clearly there's an attempt to ensure that the 2020 elections are postponed. And this is where there will be some serious problems in this country. So we've reached a time when I'm going to try and give you as much time as possible to call in. We haven't had a long call-in period for a long time. So I hope that you will use the opportunity to be able to raise your views and your concerns on this program. In the meantime, of course, I wish all the families and all citizens of Guyana a happy 52nd anniversary of our nation. That I hope on the weekend, Saturday is a holiday, and Sunday that you'll have a chance to enjoy and celebrate the fact that we as a nation, as a people, have a lot to be proud of as a nation, as a people. Our multiple diversity, our religious diversity, our cultural diversity, our linguistic diversity. But we have many challenges, and one of them is to make sure that we have a new government in 2020. Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, happy to see you.
Oh, thank you.
Happy to hear from you today that we could call you and talk to you.
Yes, I have been delinquent the last two Thursdays.
Okay. First, I must say that Mr. Jagger have to be careful because he is our president. He is my president.
Yes.
And he has to be careful because as soon as he slips, he slides. And secondly, I think they should investigate from 1985 to 1992 before started to investigate from 92 to 2015.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. People call in and make your views heard. The investigation for 1985 to 1992, when we came into office in 1992, we had not threatened in the election campaign that we're going to jail people, lock up people, and things like that. We had come in with a more tempered approach, recognizing that the necessity for the government to be a stable one and to be able to manage the country and not to have an eruption, violence, etc. And so we took a soft position, not that we didn't know there was corruption in 1985 to 1992, but that we were trying to hold the country together and to move forward and rebuild it. Let me take another call. Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Yeah, Madam Chair, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Glad to see you back on the program too.
Thank you.
My problem is that what we have in this country, we got a lot of problem in the country, right way around.
Yeah.
When we talk about jobs less. We country don't have jobs, the amount of jobs for people. Since the industry, since Baram and those places closed down, a lot of people that you know that suffering right now under this administration. And let me face the fact, right? A lot of criminal activities is going on in this country, and it seems that we security force don't have a solution. Because why? We having a minister, right, in charge of the public security. It's not a case that anybody needs to base him or, attack him and everything. But he need to move from there. We need to get him moved from there. The Guyanese public need to get him moved from there. Because the government seems not to move him from there, and the security system, every day somebody die in this country, somebody house break-in, and the security problem seems not to get better. Okay? And another thing, we in this country have to know when the election comes what we have to do. Because there's a lot of suffering going on. Okay?
Yeah.
We must thank you guys for keep up this good work. Right? We must thank the opposition because once for you, a lot of things worse would have happened with enough of people in this country. A lot of people would have suffered more in this country. what you guys doing are highlighting, it's easing us a little bit, you know, but we're suffering a lot right now. Every area in this country is suffering. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Very kind of you. No, there's no doubt. I mean, I remember before 92, just if you looked at places, how they were abandoned and looking to, neglected, and people were poor and hungry, and the level of malnutrition in this country, the level of suffering and poverty. And we struggled to bring it out, and now we're seeing a reversal. You're seeing again the deterioration. You're again seeing people that are poor, people who can't have enough to eat. We're seeing people who are losing their homes, that they spent all their efforts to try to build their homes, that the banks are seizing them because of mortgages, that they can't keep up with their mortgages, and so on. I mean, every time you open the official gazette, you're seeing that the banks are seizing property that are owned by, that people took out mortgages on, whether it's a minibus, a motorcycle, a house lot, a house. These are serious issues and are going to plunge people into terrible, terrible poverty. And so the government sits there and does nothing. They just talk about more taxes and how great they're doing. And they believe that once they say they're doing well, that the people must believe them that they're doing well. And the people aren't, and including not only the PPP supporters, but supporters of the APNU AFC. I think I feel more betrayed than even the PPP supporters. They feel betrayed because they were promised so much, and what they're getting is in fact total opposite. And what they got under the PPP, what they were receiving under the PPP, which they felt was not enough, is now being taken away from them as well. And so we recognize that things are really difficult. The sugar workers, over 5,000, the workers who've lost their jobs at Barama, and so many other places have downsized, including GT&T and Digicel, who have downsized the number of workers in those places. The manufacturing industry, for example, in terms of the lack of construction going on and the work being parceled out to selected few. Many companies are having to downgrade the number of workers that they're hiring. And so it's a really sad situation in our country to see how quickly under this government they were able to unravel what the level that Ghana had able to struggle to reach, with no cooperation from PNC in those days, to reach it by 2015, and to watch that being unraveled very quickly by the PNC. With not only that, they're dismantling the programs that the PPP had brought in and so on, but also by their own stupidity and ineptitude, making decisions that hurt this country badly. Hello?
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Yes, thank you. At the election, if we don't have election in 2020, I'm glad you could give me the answer. What will become of that?
Okay, will do. Thank you. We'll go back to precedents, and that is that in 1990 we were due to elections, because the one before that was 85, every 5 years. And because we were struggling for election reform and the counting of the place at the counting of the votes at the place of poll, we were able to lobby with the help of international supporters such as President Carter to ensure that the government had to bring these things in. Hoyt agreed to extend the life of the government for 1 year to allow for these reforms to be brought in. But it required a constitutional amendment to give the government 1 additional year. And it required a 2/3 majority. In the negotiation that went on, the PPP agreed to give Hoyt that 1 year extension to 1991 on the basis that these electoral reforms were going to be implemented and brought to the House. These were laws that had to be changed. There had to be things changed with the way in which GCOM was functioning, how it was structured, and so on. And so we gave a 2/3 majority. In the 91 period, again, not all the things were implemented, including counting at the place of poll, the votes at the place of poll. And therefore, again, after much very heated and intense discussions and pressure from the international community and from the PPP and many of the democratic forces in Ghana, including the churches, the religious bodies, and so on, that 1 more year was given to the Hoyt regime. 1 more year, again under the same arrangement. Constitution amendment, 2/3 majority. And so that was it. That's how it was done. Now, in this case, if the government decides that to do all sorts of hanky-panky, to not have the elections in 2020 as scheduled, now a number of things can happen and how that could take place. The chairman of GCOM, under the Constitution, can advise the government that they're not ready for elections and therefore can actually suspend elections. So in fact, you could actually have elections stated, date, schedule, everything on course, and the Elections Commission chairman says to the president, I regret we cannot hold elections on that day for the following reasons. And that automatically stops the elections. So that can happen. However, then you're in a constitutional mire, because then the government, the life of the government, how do you deal with that? And so the issue then kicks in that you have to go to Parliament to get an amendment to extend the life of the government, whether it's for 3 months, 6 months, a year, beyond the time that is allowed under the Constitution, and that requires a 2/3 majority. In this case, the leading opposition has already made it clear that if Hoyt thinks, if Granger thinks that we're going to do what was done in the 1992 period with Hoyt, we are not going to do it. We are not going to give out 2/3 majority, give them the 2/3 majority, which they need to be able to extend the life of government. And now if that happens, we're in a constitutional crisis. We're in a constitutional crisis. And therefore, the choice, the breach of the Constitution to appoint a chairman outside of the names put forward by the leading opposition, in breach of the Constitution, is much more of greater significance, not only for the way elections will be managed, but also the possibility that that section of the Constitution could be used to postpone elections, and therefore create an extension of the life of the government, whether by legal means or illegal means. And so those are the various scenarios that at this point one can play with. I'm sure there are many more. But that is what could possibly happen. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Hello, good afternoon, Ms. Shearer.
Yes.
I must congratulate former President and opposition leader Barry Jagdeo.
Right.
Because he did a lot for this country.
Yes.
Included you ministers too. But out of all, Mr. Jagdeo, if he wanted to, he could just pack his trap and move and go and live some other country. But he don't want to give up on his people in this country. That's why he stand here fighting to the very end. And God must always bless him and guide him on the straight path to support the Guyanese people.
Yes.
And you ministers too. And secondly, I wish if you could have got the two men with fire, like Mr. Irfan and Ejel, with you beside, and y'all discuss things and let me hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. What subject you want us to discuss? What subject you want to discuss? There are many issues. I've tried with Mr. Irfan Ali to get him on my program several times. Irfan seems to be a bit shy of the television. I don't know. But anyway, I will try again. And Bishop, I know, is busy today. But it depends on the subject areas we deal with different people and their availability. And of course, Anna is very busy with the courts. We have a number of cases in the court, and a number of them are coming up for hearing. So we have a number of comrades here who are very good, and a number of them are out in the press outside of being on this program. But to go back to the caller, I mean, Barry Jagdeo became the first and the youngest head of state in the world, at the age of 34, 35, and really brought an energy and vision to Guyana. And many people try to separate him out from Jelly Jagan and the PPP. Barry Jagdeo is a product of the PPP. He is a protege of Jelly Jagan. The PPP produced a Barry Jagdeo, and that the strength and the vision and the social consciousness that he brought has been emerged out of the PPP. And so some people try to show that he has deviated from JAG, and that's not so. The social consciousness of pro-poor, of programs that will help the poor people and elevate the poor people, education, health, housing, water, electricity, these are all issues that are fundamental and have been fundamental for the PPP from its inception. Jagdeo brought his own vision of how to make that happen in a more modern world. It is that has brought this country forward. The combination of pro-poor, to have programs that are there to help poor people, to reduce poverty, and to elevate people and give them opportunities to be able to advance themselves. Combined with a pro-growth approach, which was to work with the private sector, bring in investors, and be able to create an enabling environment for the business community to be able to grow and expand. This is a success story of the People's Progressive Party and Bharat Jagdeo. Bharat's vision of the low carbon development strategy, which the government has thrown out and is trying to create a green strategy, development plan strategy, whatever they're calling it. We still haven't seen what it is, although they're saying it's integrated into the budget, into the finances. But how do you integrate something that you don't know what it is? You haven't seen it, you haven't heard it, you haven't read it. And so the low carbon development strategy, which was his creation, was one that was innovative, that really put Guyana on the world map in terms and into the international arena on issues of climate change and the protection of the environment. And came up with a developmental model that is innovative. And so Jagdeo epitomizes the PPP and epitomizes the PPP of the 2018. And he will be there for 2020. And he will be there as our president in 2020. Any other, let's hear, we have a few minutes more on our program, and someone had just called in, I missed him while I was talking. Sorry about that. When one looks at the APNU AFC, their problems that they're having have to do a lot with the fact that they have no vision of the future. Even when you read their manifesto, if you did read their manifesto for 2015, you'll see it's a list of things. It is not a policy direction. It is not a vision. Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Good afternoon, Ms. Gail Teixeira.
Yes, good afternoon.
You know, I have a flood problem here in my yard. I don't know if you can help me with it.
Well, I can hear it, and is it? Are you in Georgetown?
No, I am in Friendship East Bank.
Friendship East Bank. Is this a problem related to the NDC?
Yes, but they're not doing anything for it. I went into the office, they had a meeting, I spoke to them, and they promised to come in. Chris promised to come in, and he never did. And this is about 5-6 times I talked to him.
Can you come in? Do you come to town every now and again?
Where you want me to come?
Well, the leading opposition office is on Church Street. Opposite Border Ground, right? Cricket Ground.
Right.
Between New Garden and Peter Rose Street. If you come in there, even if I'm not there, a comrade there will listen to you and see what to do.
Okay, honey. Thank you so much.
All right. And the telephone number, 225...
hold on.
Oh, write down the number.
Yeah.
225-3432. 225...
Right.
34... 32.
32.
Right?
Okay, thank you, honey. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Yeah, the fundamental issue when we look at, if you go back and read the manifesto of the PNC and APNU AFC, a number of lists of things of what they're going to do, but the issue is, what was the context? What was what were they going to do for the people? And the 100 things they said they were going to do in the first 100 days, 2 or 3 have been done. They have not done them. A number of them have not impacted on the condition of lives of our people. How many people in Guyana can say that they've done better under APNU AFC than before? Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
She's here.
Could you speak a bit louder?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
I just want to say, you know, there is a lot of problem a lot of people facing out here, right?
Yes.
But it's just that all of them, let me be honest, they can't reach out to you guys have them, okay?
Yes.
So much we could call, so much we can't get
Right.
to you, so much we can't get advice from y'all. Nothing, not plenty over here. You're looking deeper where I'm living. Madam, let me tell you something. It's shameful for nearly 3 months now. I went into the NDC, complain about this piece of drain, right? And the people keep throwing garbage into the drain. And up to now, no one has come.
Which NDC is this?
Zeeburg.
Zeeburg. That's
Yeah.
West Coast.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Not one income up to now to rectify this piece of problem. You see, when the rain falls, the whole place, my yard is flooded.
Right.
The grass is blocked the drain. Okay? And
Yes.
it's a piece of drain like about 20-25 rod only
Right.
to clean.
Right.
You know? Is a man who own a piece of lot, like 3 lots he own in a stretch. So he don't be in the country, the drain is back of him, and people throw all sort of things and do what they want to do
Right.
there. You know?
And so this
And you
is the
complain to
NDC,
the
at
NDC?
Zeeburg, right?
Yeah. You complain to the NDC, madam, no one shaping up to visit you.
Right.
You're paying your rate and tax.
Right.
It's not that you don't pay your rate and tax. Up
Right.
to the other month I went and pay out for the whole year.
Right.
You know? And you need, when you pay your tax, you need to, people come and look after the areas. You know?
No, I agree.
Look, let me be honest with you, it looks like it's a one side of theory going on in this country where
Right.
some place when people call him, madam, quick time people reach.
Right.
Some place they wouldn't attend to you. They wouldn't look at you. You know? And our government got to see to that. You know, they have to stop these things under
Yeah.
the PPP administration. They must have feel bad when people talk about the PPP because the PPP was straight up.
Right.
You know, they was looking after all the people.
Right.
You know, and they mustn't feel bad when people talk so. You know, people have to say have to express their feelings towards these things. There's a lot of things going on in our country where people are suffering and people don't want to talk, they're frightened for talk.
Yeah.
You know? Thank
No,
you
but
very much.
You're welcome. Just for the gentleman, the NDC, I've taken the 2 quick notes for the Friendship NDC and the Zeeburg NDC, although I don't know the details of the Friendship one, but the Friendship person is living closer, so they can come by to Church Street. But also, comrades, 225-3432, the number of the Leader of the Opposition office, where we have staff there, small staff, but we can listen to your complaints, particularly relating to some of these local issues at the local level, and to see particularly if the NDCs, and we have people in the NDCs, if they're functioning or not functioning. These are elected representatives, whether they're APNU, AFC, PPP, or any other, they're supposed to serve the people in the area and to be available to them. And therefore, particularly if these are NDCs where we have our councillors and they're not being responsive, we take this very, very seriously. So please feel free to call in 225-3432. I will report that these are 2 concerns that have come up on the program. Well, we have 1 minute more, and I must say I'm really happy to have been here with you today. I hope in some way that I've helped to clarify some issues for you, and that clearly people are suffering. And I want to say this, things are not necessarily going to get better in the near future, but that we have to stay strong as a people. And as I said, people have to do their civic duty. We need you to do your civic duty, to get registered if your name is not on the list, if your name is spelled wrong, if your ID card is wrong, to correct all these things so that your name is on the correct list, the list where you live, so that for local government elections you'll be allowed to vote there, because if you're in Essequibo list where you used to live and now you're living on Friendship NDC area, you can't vote because your name is not in that area. So please remember too, you can't also put yourselves up as candidates, constituency candidates, or even PPP candidates or APNU AFC candidates if your name is not on the list in that constituency where you're going to run in that NDC or that municipality. So it's very important this time to get yourself sorted out, and that And once you've sorted yourself out for the local government elections, it means you don't have to rush for the 2020 elections. Your name is on the list, and that therefore you don't have to worry. Putting your name on the list and all those that are eligible is important. For those who are 14 plus, the registration includes those who are 14 plus to get them on the list. For those who are going to be near 16, please try to get those out onto the list, because they will then be eligible not to vote this year, but to vote in 2020 most likely. So let's do our civic responsibilities and get people sorted out and registered. On the day itself, people will make their decisions of what they're doing, and we hope that they will come out and support the PPP wholeheartedly, so we're able to change and bring back a new government. So remember, the greatest enemy of democracy, what is it? Silence. The greatest enemy to democracy is silence. And so we will struggle and continue to struggle, but we shall not be silent. Take care of yourselves. Have a good weekend. Happy independence. Happy 52nd anniversary of our country. And enjoy yourselves with your families and your loved ones. Don't overdo it. Don't drink and drive. Please take care, and we'll see each other next week, Thursday, right here on Matters of Public Importance on Channel 6. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Program are not necessarily those of CNS Channel 6.